So our next speaker, final speaker before lunch, is John Bonanno, and John is the CXO at New Energy Nexus. So he's going to be talking about another tool, which is opportunity zones, and how do we leverage the tax benefited capital through opportunity zones so people will dramatically increase their investment across the board in areas that most need it, but especially in clean energy. But we can apply this tool to other sectors as well. So please join me in welcoming John here from California. Thank you.
Clicker. I got it. Hi. We're going to start with Q&A. How many people have heard of a Opportunity Zone tax incentive before? Wow, quite a number. I'm surprised. That's good news. This is, in fact, a hyper-local tax incentive for federal capital gains. And you, in some cases, minus California at the moment, can have conformity to that federal law. So let's start with this. I'm not a lawyer nor an accountant, so trust me not. And these are the partners that are working with us to support this nonprofit effort that we're putting forward around Opportunity Zone tax incentive use and benefit in the clean energy sector for projects and also for corporate investing. They're all over the place. There's over 8,700 zones, and Steph is so wise to say lots of value investing very locally. We equally believe in that. And so lots of places you can invest. You can go to this website, easyOZ.org. It's our program URL, and you can find the map, and you can look at where you want to invest and the things you want to find. It became law in December of 2017. This law was first incubated under the Obama administration and then moved into the current administration. The challenge is that as soon as the tax was written into law in December of 2017, it didn't really become a valid tax law until we knew where the lines were drawn. So once the place-based maps were decided, which was the end of the summer of 2018, at that point, we really transitioned from theoretical to actual. We as a platform have now formed 4 funds with a small f because we believe in a stakeholder-owned rather than a money manager-owned type of fund structure, and we'll get a little bit more into that. How it works is reasonably simple. Everything is incredibly time sensitive. It's a capital gains investment tool. So there are already lots of income tax tools, but this is a efficiency tool for your capital gains. So anytime a person, a partnership, a corporate, a foreign investor has a capital gain liability to the federal government, they can use this tool to have potentially offsets and also delay in your tax bill, which is good. So what happens is within a certain period of time, you take your capital gains and you invest them into something called a QOF, a Qualified Opportunity Zone Fund. And by doing so, you as the capital gains investor have now decided, I am investing locally in a low income area for a long period of time, okay? And then those funds are then administrated typically by you, the capital gains source, into the investment, whether that be a solar project or whether that be a clean tech company in an opportunity zone. All of this is completely valid. Everyone has a role to play, and I think we've spoken a lot about that. Amy's put a great agenda together here talking about how communities can set the table for capital and for developers. So identifying your land footprint, identifying your interconnect. We have a lens of clean energy. Identifying what are your assets as a community. In most cases, the government has a lot of leverage on their local grid operator, electrical grid operator. So there's been a lot of delay on getting renewables onto grid because, of course, the incumbent, it's not in their best interest to do that because you're taking a customer away from them effectively. So there's been a lot of delays there. So we think that the community can do a lot of things, and they also get a lot of benefits from it, right? So the benefits are clear. Long-term energy resiliency for low-income areas. Everyone can remember how Houston went underwater for a significant period of time. Louisiana's going under, Puerto Rico, et cetera, et cetera. We continue as a society to endure and will continue probably in an accelerating manner, some pretty atrocious outcomes for low-income people as we are starting to feel the beginning of the climate destabilization, which I liked Tom's words the other night about it's not really about anything but volatility. You get low-cost electricity from these outcomes. You also have clean air and clean water. The single biggest reason why low-income children don't go to school is because of particulate, asthma. And if we can solve that problem through this tax incentive that gives reward to the financial investor, gives reward to the developer of these solar projects or these electric vehicle charging infrastructure installations, if we reward all stakeholders, then everyone benefits. Clearly, clean air is a benefit to low-income people. The investor gets up to a 15% basis adjustment. That means that if you invest $1 million of capital gains into a qualified fund structure, in 7 years' time, you will get $150,000 tax-free. You also haven't paid tax on that money for 7 years as well. So time value of money is quite important here as well. Finally, if that fund invests in something and you then hold that asset for over 10 years, when you liquidate that asset, you pay zero in federal capital gains. Zero. I heard someone say, oh, up there, that's true, that's big. That's really big. Okay, so it can also be combined with other types of tax benefits like investor tax credits or historic tax credits, new market tax credits. It doesn't encumber the transaction in any way. So this is all very good for a capital source. The next party in the group of stakeholders is, of course, the developer. Why would the developer want to introduce a new financing tool into their capital stack? So a solar developer, wind developer, hydro developer, waste to energy developer, the woman from Duke University doing swine waste to some sort of higher value products. She has a lot of swine farms in low-income areas, not surprisingly. So they are opportunity zone projects potentially, and that's what we were discussing. Her challenge is that they produce gas, and gas is $2.20 right now, and it's very difficult to make that pencil. So there's a lot of value to the developer here because if they know that the capital source is getting a better deal, well, then they should demand a little more too. They should say, well, my development fee is a little bit more. And also, how about the community says, well, and we'd like lower cost electricity too. So that sharing environment is something we as a nonprofit and a facilitator are really trying to encourage. That's the only way for a virtuous cycle to occur. So we've already completed a project on behalf of a solar developer in Delaware. They're serving a low-income housing authority, which is a HUD facility. It's 500 kilowatts, ground-mounted system, and it's just solar only, no storage. And we created the QOF on behalf of the developer. Capital gains investor invested. The money went into the project. The project is now being constructed, and we're going to commission it on September 13th with people from HUD and people from DOE and make a big deal out of it because honestly, it's a big deal. And who's the administrator of the fund? The capital gains investor. There's no intermediary. There's no Kleiner Perkins on the wall. There's no JP Morgan on the wall. There's no fees. There's no 2 and 20. This is direct benefit to the stakeholders of this deal. And that's really important to us as someone that believes that clean energy is and it must be a diverse and equitable type of event. So this is what the project looked like. And we'll go on again. Any other questions? It's a lot of information, and I'm sorry I had to go fast, but we wanted to just sort of deliver this message that capital gains can move the needle in a meaningful manner around clean energy transition, and not just for generating assets, but also for efficiency. Efficiency, everyone said, well, what's that? HVAC in your building, if you can replace an old unit and put in a new one that you can control, you're now controlling the biggest energy sucking device in your building. And now you can control load. That's really important, especially when market signals tell you, do not turn that thing on at 3 o'clock, because that's your peak pricing. So you turn it down slightly. Buildings can hold thermal value over time. Anyway, it gets a little nuanced, but you also can do clean tech investing in corporates through this entity as well. And the woman that said, oh, I think up there made the proper expression around this. If you make an investment through this tool, and say you have a $5 million valuation today, and in year 11 this thing exits for $500 million, you pay zero in tax. That's pretty incredible. That's all. Any questions?
A question on timing. Aren't these bound by a certain, you have to either create a project in a certain time period or actually make an investment in an opportunity zone by a certain time period? Otherwise, you miss out, at least in this current iteration.
Yeah, we don't expect the timing to change either. We expect potentially the cliff at the end of this year to maybe be pushed out, but you're making a very good observation, which is within 180 days of your liquidity event, meaning the event that created your capital gain, you need to deploy your money into a qualified fund. Now, you can be an administrator of that fund, right? But then the fund has about 6 months, depending on your entry moment into the fund, you have about 6 months to deploy it into a qualified investment. Now you can, if you haven't identified your investment yet, you can then put it into a subsidiary that then has 36 months to invest. So there are strategies around the timing that we can obviously assist. We have no pony in this race. We are literally here to make you aware. You're now all aware. We're educating you. You're now educated. You can go to our website, easyoz.org, and get a full white paper that we've created. We have a bunch of video stuff up there. We want you to be educated participants in this clean energy revolution, whether it's EV charging infrastructure or EV leasing businesses to municipals or green generation stuff. We want it all to happen. But your point is a good one, and we can help you, in a consultative manner where we don't charge you. It's a pretty good deal.
Thank you. That's
You're
very
welcome.
helpful.
Do you have a portfolio of projects then that people can evaluate and choose from, or does the person with the capital gains have to go find a project?
So we are, it's on our roadmap to have an exchange where capital gains investors can come and see projects. That's not up right now. We hope, we are also in need of some funding for the program, but that's not why we're here. We have a lot of capital gains investors looking for clean energy stuff to invest in. There are much fewer projects and companies to invest in. So we are very familiar with several. We could obviously make some informal introductions. We're not a broker dealer. We're not an iBank. So you have these for free introductions and also free education. And when you transact, you simply say, hey, John, I need that QOF. We're about to do this deal. And we put it together and you go.